The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
Thanks for joining us this Thursday. We'll get a check on today's news in just a moment. After that, we'll take a trip down to Texas, where the 42nd annual SuperRigs event kicked off today in Texas. If you can't make it, don't worry. We've got you covered with a full preview. Then we'll delve into the changes that are coming to FMCSA's online registration system as the agency works to streamline the registration process and make it harder for fraudsters to game the system. And finally, we'll close out the show by taking a trip to Colorado, where the governor just signed a bill into law that puts several new restrictions on truckers in place. All that coming up. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration held a public meeting recently to discuss the future of its modernized online registration system. Kenneth Riddle is the director of the Office of Registration and Safety Information for FMCSA. He began the meeting talking about fraud prevention measures and said that they wouldn't be waiting until the new registration system is in place to help mitigate the fraud that's happening today.
Some of it reaches the criminal level, which FMCSA does not have the criminal authority to address, and some of it is within our realm to mitigate. I think we have an opportunity to help. We heard from industry that the fraud is really bad, and I'm talking generally. Like I said, it takes on many forms, and we're doing some things to help. Everything that we can, actually. A few things on the slide there. We suspended the ability to get a PIN online because that was being compromised. So now we will only mail a PIN number to the address on file, hoping that cuts back on the inappropriate PIN interceptions. Multi-factor authentication, that's the login.gov that you go through now to get into our system. That was implemented, again, to help mitigate illegal or unauthorized access of our system. For a paper form mailed to our FMCSA contact center, and we get about 24,000 pieces of paper a month. That's a lot of applications. We started requesting a copy of the driver's license. We want to verify that the person that is submitting the change or the request is in fact the account holder, and we want a copy of the driver's license to validate that. It's not a foolproof method. People have found ways to exploit that. But again, we're doing everything we can to help mitigate the fraud that is occurring. We're verifying PPOBs. We're not waiting on a new system to tighten up the PPOB definitions and requirements. We're doing that now in our legacy systems, and I'll talk more about that. And lastly, we're standing up a registration fraud team, a team that will be dedicated to helping find ways to mitigate the fraud that's occurring via FMCSA.
Riddle said they're in the process of hiring a company that does identity verification.
An industry-leading company in this area, where a new applicant will have to most likely have to upload a picture of their driver's license, and then they will have to take a selfie, and this company will verify their identity, not only through verifying that the ID is real and that their picture matches the ID, but also checking a multitude of databases to try and verify and confirm the individual is who they say they are. And we hope to, again, we're not waiting on the new registration system. We're going to implement that just as soon as we can, as soon as we get a vendor on board and build that interface.
Riddle said the second thing on the agenda is business verification.
And that is, we want the ability to verify that the business being registered is a legitimate business and it actually exists. With those two services, that capability, I think we can go a long ways towards mitigating some of the problems the industry is seeing today.
Riddle spoke about some of the things that will be new in the modernized system.
We're going to streamline the registration process for all entities, carriers, IEPs, brokers, freight forwarders, because we want an intuitive system that has error checks and real-time capability to help the customers. We're going to eliminate arbitrary wait times. Right now, there are wait times built into the existing registration process in our IT systems. There was probably a good reason for those wait times back in the day. But I think with today's technology, today's capabilities, we can eliminate any arbitrary wait times. So in my opinion, at midnight on day 10 of the protest period, if there is no protest and all the proper filings are made, that authority ought to go active at midnight. And that's what I mean by eliminating some of the arbitrary wait times.
One of the ways FMCSA will improve safety is by enhancing its vetting operations.
Every type of application that is submitted for any reason will be vetted. And also, a new system with the latest technology will improve interoperability, not only between FMCSA systems, but also between state and industry systems as well.
FMCSA is already in the process of making changes to improve the registration system and prevent fraud. For the changes that are required to go through the formal rulemaking process, a proposal is expected to be published later this year. July 4th is right around the corner, and the American Pyrotechnics Association has put in a request to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to exempt 12 additional companies from hours of service and ELD regulations. The fireworks group wants FMCSA to extend existing relief from the 14-hour rule and ELD mandate to a dozen more of its members. In 2022, FMCSA granted exemptions to 32 of the American Pyrotechnics Association's member companies. The exemptions were granted for the period of June 28th through July 8th in 2023 and 2024. The public will be able to make comments on the exemption request. To do so, you can visit regulations.gov and enter docket number FMCSA-2021-0052. A meeting to discuss current industry practices regarding the disclosure of towing fees and recovery services has been scheduled for June. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration announced that the public meeting will be held on June 21st from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern. The meeting is being held to engage stakeholders, including motor carriers, towing and recovery services for commercial motor vehicles, and other interested parties to get their perspective on current practices. The meeting will be held at the Department of Transportation headquarters in Washington, D.C., with a virtual option to attend as well. For more information on the meeting, you can visit our website at landline.media. SuperRigs kicks off today at the Texas Motor Speedway. Julie Wright with Shell says there's lots to take in over the next few days.
So we are celebrating all of the country's working trucks here. So we have a great variety of trucks here on site, some beautiful rigs that people can come enjoy the outdoors. There's going to be a concert, fireworks going on. We have our Shell Rotella Roadhouse, which is an interactive setup where fans can come out, learn about some of the product information, see some demos, interact with the brand, win some fun prizes, and just take in all the beautiful trucks that are here.
SuperRigs goes through Saturday. Travel Centers of America announced another location that's opened in Grambling, Louisiana. The new TA Express offers 31 truck parking spaces, with more coming, according to the company. It also has 6 diesel fueling stations with DEF, a variety of amenities, and a dining option that's set to open this September. And finally, a truck carrying strawberries caused a traffic jam recently after it overturned on a highway in California. UPI reports that the truck was carrying around 40,000 pounds of fruit when it overturned and blocked the northbound connector ramps to Highway 101 and Interstate 880 in San Jose. No injuries were reported, and the ramps were opened shortly after the cleanup was finished. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Coming up next, we'll travel to the Texas Motor Speedway for a full rundown of the 42nd Annual SuperRigs. So stick around. Landline Now is back right after this.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Get the most power performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline now, welcome back. The annual Rotella SuperRigs is taking place today through Saturday at the Texas Motor Speedway in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Landline Now's Ashley Blackford has the details.
I'm joined by Julie Wright with Shell to talk about a very exciting event that kicks off today, SuperRigs. Julie, tell me, what can people expect from this year's event?
Yes, thanks for having me. So we are at the 42nd annual Shell Rotella SuperRigs here at Texas Motor Speedway. It kicks off today. And so we are celebrating all of the country's working trucks here. So we have a great variety of trucks here on site, some beautiful rigs that people can come enjoy the outdoors. There's going to be a concert, fireworks going on. We have our Shell Rotella Roadhouse, which is an interactive setup where fans can come out, learn about some of the product information, see some demos, interact with the brand, win some fun prizes, and just take in all the beautiful trucks that are here.
What goes into the lead up to this event? I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes into these, right?
Yes, there's a lot of planning. That this probably started as soon as the last SuperRigs was over, scouting for a location, a date, and we really felt strongly about bringing it back to Houston this year, bringing it back to Texas this year. Really that middle of the country. It's a great meeting place, a crossroads for a whole lot of routes. So we have been very fortunate to be able to see trucks from across the country here, as well as some representation from Canada. So we've gotten a great response. Over 75 trucks were pre-registered for the event before we even opened the doors. So lots of excitement out there, and we are grateful for all of the support.
How is the weather looking for the next few days?
It is beautiful and sunny, 80s here. Yes, there's that slight chance of rain, but we will adjust as needed, and there is plenty of sunshine. So come on out and enjoy the event for sure if you're in the Dallas area.
Now, this is the 42nd year for the event. Anything new or different happening this year?
Yes, it's the 42nd annual. We are excited to continue this. The venue, I think, is the big story this year. We are at the iconic Texas Motor Speedway. We are set up on the infield, so fans and trucks will get the exclusive access to be able to come through the South Tunnel onto the infield and experience all the trucks, but also this great venue and the track, from seeing it down at field level. So we are very excited about that. And then, of course, the fireworks show concert will be going on Friday night. So it's really just a family event too. This is a great chance to be able to celebrate all the hard work that these drivers do throughout the year, but also allow them to kick back and enjoy some time with family, with friends, reconnect. Some of them see each other at this event annually. So very excited for all the relationships that we can celebrate here too.
Talk to me a little bit about the competition. I've been told this is kind of like the Super Bowl of truck shows.
Yes. It's very, very coveted, very sought after prizes here. So there are 12 categories that the rigs will be judged in. They will go through and have a judging time throughout the the 3 days or 2.5 days of the event. We are judging everything from, or awarding prizes for everything from best in show, which is the kind of top of the pyramid, through down to best chrome, best interior. The light judging will be happening on Friday night. So that is also a very fun time that, everybody can come out and see all the truck lights. In addition to that, we are also shooting the pictures for the 2025 SuperRigs calendar while we were on site here this week. And that is a very, very coveted 12 spots that we are going to be choosing the trucks for. And we have some fabulous locations that have been selected in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we are very excited about that. And the truckers are just ecstatic and overjoyed when they are informed that they have been chosen for one of those calendar spots and be able to participate in the photo shoot for those.
Now, the show kicked off today. Is it too late to attend?
It is not too late to attend. It is free to the public. It is Thursday, Friday, and half the day Saturday. So absolutely not too late to attend. Come early, come often. There is free parking. It's free entry. And we will have lots to do here on site, and bring the whole family down, bring friends down. These truckers love to be able to show off their trucks, to enjoy and have people come out and chat with them and take in, all the pride that they really have in their rigs. So yes, please come attend. We are excited. And if you're in the Dallas area, put it on your list for this weekend.
That was Julie Wright with Shell. Jamie Jones joins me now. She is managing editor of Landline magazine and a seasoned SuperRigs attendee and judge. Not to make you sound old or anything,
No,
Jamie.
Not at all.
How many years have you been going to SuperRigs?
This will be my 22nd SuperRigs. Now, mind you, we had a couple of virtual, kind of not as much fun. So just kind of have to stick with how many have actually happened. But this will be my 22nd.
Wow.
So I've seen a lot over the years.
Yeah. Now, every truck show is a bit different. For those who have never been to SuperRigs, kind of explain to me, what is it like?
Well, the easiest way to explain it to anybody who's been to like the Mid-America Trucking Show, everybody's there. They're parked. They have so much time to clean, and then it comes rags down, and then the judges go and do their thing. And it's a very structured environment in that regard. So, you'll have people just, wearing themselves silly, trying to beat that clock. And SuperRigs, kind of bills itself as the Super Bowl of show trucks. A lot of these are the real top tier, but they do have to be working trucks. So there's still that cleaning aspect and all of that goes into it. It's just at SuperRigs, when they stage at the event location, which moves around the country, that's another unique thing about it. When they will sign up for a time slot, like a 2-hour time slot, better than the cable company anyway. So where they can get judged, and they will actually come through and drive through the judging line when they are ready to present their truck. And it's cracked me up over the years because there's so much gamesmanship that they build into that particular setup, and so many superstitions. Like, I don't want to be first. I don't want to be last. Don't go right before lunch because the judges will be hungry and
just want to hurry up.
They have all these different, and I don't want to go behind another blue truck because I don't want mine confused with theirs. So I need to,
Wow.
And so there's all this jockeying for position and stuff that goes on, and I get it. I played sports. I was extremely superstitious. The socks had to go on in the right order. And there was a lot to it. So I'm not at all dissing it or making fun. I'm just recognizing my own kind out there with their competitive streaks. So
what are some of the things you look for, and does it change throughout the years, or how does that work?
Actually, the categories remain consistent. There's workmanship, theme, Off the top of my head, I'm spacing out on the 5 different categories, but one of them in particular is originality. And that's the one that changes year to year, because I remember we rolled into, I believe it was Charlotte. And I mean, if there was one lowrider, black Peterbilt outlaw truck, there was 15. And it's kind of hard to be an outlaw and a renegade when everybody else is an outlaw and a renegade. So, your originality points are going to, you can only throw on so many different touches for the same exact look. And so that gets tricky when you start having that kind of feel that, somebody will come up with something and set the trend, and then everybody chases it for the next 2-3 years. And then it just kind of cycles through, and you start seeing different stuff. And then with the addition of the aerodynamic designs, there was, people that had to adapt to how they were going to trick their trucks and things like that. So over the years, there has been evolution, but a lot of it is just almost like, compare it to fashion. It just evolves and changes with, what's the new, latest, greatest thing that everybody loves.
Now, each judge comes with a different skill set. How do you feel like your skills, in writing and trucking journalism has helped you in these competitions? I assume you've learned from judging and, everything's helped kind of along the way.
Oh, yeah. And again, it goes back to mentorship, because every once in a while, you'll have a truck that'll come through and the paperwork's not quite right. They're not meeting the requirements exactly. And to be as networked in the industry with other show truck competitions and stuff, have you had any run-ins with this? Have you not? So I have a networking ability that I can get background if I need to. Something else that's been a big asset to us recently, and this was a new addition, I guess he's probably going on 10 years now, Doug Morris with OOIDA. He is actually like a compliance officer and will help verify the paperwork. And we know that we can go and look up inspection records. We know we can go, there are these things that we know we can go look up that people who aren't as familiar with the book side or regulatory side of trucking would not know all these honey holes that we go to get this information. So I think that's probably my strongest skill set. And then there's other people who know the equipment a little bit better. There's other people. And so, but we share our information with each other and really do it collaboratively so that nobody's missing anything. If you feel like you didn't see something or you see something the rest need to see, we will make sure that other judges are aware.
All right. And finally, what do you enjoy most about the show?
The people. 100% the people. It's. I think every truck show for me is the people. I mean, the pretty trucks and all the other stuff that's just icing on the cake. When you see a truck roll up, and I really do enjoy this part, I'll stand out there and I'll watch them drive up when they're getting to park to be judged. And you'll see a whole family hop out. And, cute as a bug, little boys, little girls who've been out there cleaning for days with their parents. I mean, that's as much their truck as anything. And it's really fun to, mom or dad will be standing there and you'll be, all right, tell me about your truck. And they'll start and they'll have all the details. They'll rattle it off and they'll walk you around and tell you everything about it. And it's precious because that's the part of trucking that makes it so interesting and successful, is when it's all about the people, it's all about the camaraderie, the friendship. They're always sharing food. They help each other out with the cleaning. It's just really nice to see that good side of humanity go on around you for 3 full days. And it's just like, okay, the world's not entirely broken.
That's good.
We don't get those opportunities as much anymore. People just don't seem as happy. And I think when you can just put it all to the side and just have fun together as a big group for 2-3 days, that's what makes it special.
All right. Jamie, thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
The annual Shell Rotella SuperRigs goes until this weekend at the Texas Motor Speedway. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Welcome back to Landline Now. While you're out working, so are federal regulators. It's hard to keep track of what's new because you've understandably got other things on your mind, but thankfully we've got Jay Grimes on our side. Jay is OID's Director of Federal Affairs, and he joins us here in Studio A for our weekly installment of Regulatory Roundup. Jay, good to see you.
Good to be back.
We have known now for a little while that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is making some changes, some big changes really, to its registration system. Part of this is about modernizing the system. Part of it is also about fraud prevention. And FMCSA held an event on Wednesday afternoon to provide some updates on their efforts. And we learned some things, Jay. What did we learn?
Yeah, so this was the second time FMCSA has kind of brought stakeholders together and talking about this concept in some ways, which they've been working on for decades with, some mixed success, I would say. But as you mentioned, the latest effort, modernizing the system, which has had its flaws for years, and really trying to make it more electronic, more online, more user-friendly is really going to be the main key here. They had an event in D.C. In person at DOT headquarters, kind of kicking it off. And then this one held yesterday was an online virtual session. I think it had 500 folks at maybe the peak of the event. And also learned they're going to hold one more, at least one more later this year. But we did get some more details on some timelines, and kind of the way I break this down is that FMCSA has got some ideas that they want to put forward this modernization system. Some they can do on their own. Some of the aspects are going to require a federal rulemaking process. And kind of the initial plan is now for the stuff that they're going to do on their own is going to be out in early 2025. The stuff they got to do through a rulemaking process is going to be out in the proposed form, hopefully by the end of this year. So we're going to start seeing, I think, incrementally some changes, some updates, some improvements to kind of put everything under one U.S. DOT number for registration. That's really the main thing, and FMCSA has kind of hinted that for the last few weeks, and we've heard a lot about some of the different things they're going to implement, beginning with MATs. I believe Ken Riddle, who was a big component of the event this week, talked about the need to address freight fraud, broker fraud, and that's really going to be another main priority for this system. Got a few details, but really kind of the main processes are going to be an identity verification process and then a business verification process, with the hopes of this upgraded FMCSA modernization system to be user-friendly, self-explanatory, and intuitive. A lot of that remains. Sounds great.
Sounds good, yeah.
A lot of that remains to be seen, but we did get kind of a little bit of a sample of how it could potentially work, but I think they still got a lot of kind of build out to complete, but
yeah,
optimistic on one end, but kind of given the history of this kind of idea of an online registration system and some of its failures going back to 2015, 2017 of the unified registration system.
You're right.
Really hoping that FMCSA's kind of on the IT side can get everything together, because this is going to be a major undertaking.
It is. It's going to be a heavy lift here. And you mentioned all the challenges that have been been there already and been there in the past. The thing that we were kind of talking about earlier, and Mark Schirmer of Landline Magazine as well, who was watching this, mentioned that one of the plans here is to verify literally every single existing registered account, which is a security measure, a fraud prevention measure for sure. It kind of begs the question for me, why aren't we doing this already? Which is, obviously we're talking about it now, which is a step in the right direction. But number one, you would hope that would have already been taking place. It's not. And number two, again, that is a heavy lift, and that is going to take a lot of time, I would think.
Right. And it does make you wonder. I think the short answer is federal government trying to implement and adopt evolving technologies, and certainly multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
And the way that they kind of explain this identity verification process is that you're going to have to submit documents, a picture of yourself, some other information. And to process that quickly,
it's not going to happen quickly.
So, and then they said that, so we've got, I think FMCSA mentioned over 800,000 registrants current on the books. That goes back to the onset of the FMCSA, maybe prior incarnations with the ICC and the DOT. So that's going to take a while to work through. And they said the goal was to kind of go through all the existing registrants before they start up the new system. So that's going to be interesting to kind of see how that takes place and what vendor they're kind of going to hire. It sounded like they're in talks and kind of towards the final stages of having that figured out. But we still don't know the exact details of how this identity verification process is going to be set up, what documents you're going to need, and how quickly FMCSA can verify who's who.
Yeah.
Now, ideally, if this thing works out, they're probably going to weed out a whole bunch of, potentially fraudulent carriers that are in business now, entities that have been out of business for years and are just kind of clogging up this system. So hopefully it can kind of, clear the playing field a little bit, definitely crack down on broker fraud. And this is going to be, potentially, I think, eventually one tool to do that. But again, a lot of skepticism on how these IT systems are going to work, how quickly they can be implemented, and when they are implemented, are they going to be reliable? Are they going to be safe? We got broker fraud's a big problem. Cybersecurity, certainly another problem that we've seen certainly in recent years on some FMCSA systems.
Well, and again, to be positive about this, this is an issue that is on FMCSA's radar, fraud in particular. Yep. They're trying to do something about it. These things do take time, as we know, in the federal government system. But we're taking these steps. We've also seen in Congress, right, this new bill that came out recently, H.R. 8505, the Household Goods Shipping Consumer Protection Act. We talked about this last week when it first dropped. But in short, this is going to give FMCSA, if it were to pass and obviously become law, give FMCSA the power to use a little muscle when enforcing freight fraud. So we're seeing these little hints here and there that we're heading in the right direction.
Hope so. And kind of what we've seen over the last few years as these instances of freight fraud, double brokering, load fishing have kind of really increased exponentially and are costing the industry hundreds of millions of dollars each year, is kind of twofold. On one hand, FMCSA, certainly doesn't have a lot of the manpower, economic resources to crack down on these bad entities. They also don't have the statutory authority for that. And this is what H.R. 8505 is going to aim to improve. And it's called the Household Goods Shipping Consumer Protection Act, but it's going to go a long way to protect everyone in the industry as well. And kind of the main things are that it's going to accomplish, it's going to restore and codify FMCSA's authority to issue major civil penalties against criminal actors. It's also going to require brokers, freight forwarders, and carriers to provide legitimate, valid business address before FMCSA grants their authority. And that's really one of the main concerns that we see right now. We see these chameleon brokers pop up with fake addresses, a P.O. box that has hundreds of different entities registered to it, and it's nothing more than a mailbox or a vacant lot somewhere. So they're able to register, get their authority, but it's kind of clear that they're not really in the legitimate trucking industry, or they're not trying to, broker goods in a lawful manner. So if you get this in place, that's going to, hopefully discourage anyone from trying to, get their broker authority. Also going to give FMCSA some more tools to suspend their authority or to disqualify them altogether. Also, there's another provision that you're going to have to disclose if you've got common ownership between a brokerage and a carrier. So that could, I think, crack down on some of the double brokering that we continue to see. So going to give some legislative authority for FMCSA to hopefully kind of make a dent in everything that's going wrong in terms of freight and broker fraud right now.
HR 8505, bipartisan bill. Feel free to reach out to your lawmakers and ask them to get on board with that one. Another item of note here, Jay, we've got a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you about another carrier asking FMCSA for an exemption from certain student driver regulations. We're talking Covenant Logistics here. And I know you've got thoughts.
And this goes back to an issue that we kind of continue to see some larger carriers push for exemptions on. We also saw FMCSA put out a notice of proposed rulemaking that would waive the requirement for an experienced CDL holder to accompany a commercial learner's permit holder in the front seat. So, right now the regulations stipulate if you're a permit holder, you've got to have a CDL person with you in the front seat to provide training, advice, guidance, oversight, especially in those critical early days, early months when drivers are just getting out on the road. Over the past few years, we've seen a number of carriers be granted an exemption to waive this requirement. Just saw one recently. FMCSA renewed one for CRST. There's other exemptions for Stevens Transport, New Prime, CR England, Werner, and Wilson Logistics. And FMCSA has recently proposed to kind of make this waiver permanent across the board. Obviously, we think there's a lot of safety concerns if this waiver were to be removed. We've consistently opposed these waivers, especially kind of considering the nature of entry-level driver training these days. We see a lot of new drivers who don't have the basic skills to operate in interstate commerce, and ends up having a negative impact on safety. We also see some of these drivers who don't have the proper training leave the industry a few weeks, a few months, because they didn't get that upfront training and experience in training schools and in CDL schools to understand what they were getting into. So we think this waiver is not going to improve safety. We'll certainly be submitting comments in opposition. And I know the comment period for the broader waiver has ended recently, and FMCSA is reviewing that.
Yes, and as you kind of alluded to there, if I were a betting man, I would say this one gets accepted too. But we continue to see the watering down of these regulations, which, as you point out, are meant to make sure that everybody is safe out there, which seems to run counter to FMCSA's mission. But
no doubt.
What do I know?
And another example of some carriers using this false premise of a driver shortage to kind of take advantage of these intended safety regulations.
Absolutely. Comment when and where you can when these things pop up, and let FMCSA know how you feel. Jay, it's a pleasure as always, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Our thanks again to Jay Grimes of OIDA. Stick around. We're back right after this short commercial break.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibrotech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibrotech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. Scott Thompson here, joined in Studio A by Keith Goebel of Landline Magazine, which can only mean one thing. We've got some state stuff to talk about, legislation and laws that could impact you and your livelihoods. Keith, good to see you.
Scott, how you doing?
Doing just fine here. We're going to spend some time in Colorado to begin here. Big changes coming to the state there. We've talked before about bills in the State House in Denver aimed at professional truck drivers and trucks, I guess, in general. And the governor has signed one into law. Walk us through some of the changes that we're going to see there in Colorado.
Yeah, this being the most lengthy piece of legislation that we've been following there in Colorado. If folks will recall here, very recently talked about the new idling authorization that they've permitted for localities there throughout the state to have stricter idling rules than what even the state already has. And this is the other part of legislation that we've been following. Has more provisions in it, but yeah, trying to address for the most part concern about travel. Truck travel specifically during the winter months, as you would assume, really the high country, the mountainous area there in Colorado. So doing it in multiple aspects, but addressing it in multiple ways with overall the intent of improving travel safety with the focus again on the winter, but obviously all of these provisions in here would also potentially cover some other times of the year as well.
And the headline, I think, and you mentioned winter there, which falls in line with the chain law changing there, not throughout the entire state, just on mostly Interstate 70, I think, but also on some different routes throughout the state of Colorado. Essentially, they're strengthening the chain law there, right?
Yeah. One of the things that was pointed out by the main bill sponsor there in Colorado, Senator Dylan Roberts out of the Frisco area, is over the past few winters in the mountain highways, they've had what he described as being many avoidable closures. The fault or pointing the finger at commercial drivers from outside of the region that don't have as much experience with travel in that area, and trying to, put some rules in place so that those folks are prepared whenever they come into the area. So, of course, they've already got a chain law. They've had a chain law there in Colorado. DOT, they can issue closures. They can put a requirement in place. Specifically, when traveling on I-70 anytime from like September 1st of September to the end of May every year, they can put restrictions in place. With this new law, they are allowed to, for trucks that weigh in excess of 16,000 pounds, just simply require that they be carrying chains on any of 7 highways there, again, in the affected mountainous area there of the state, in hopes that that will help alleviate some of, again, what were described as being some avoidable closures.
Yeah, which, makes sense. Everybody wants to be safe out there. But I know the trucking industry in general, OOIDA and the Trucking Association there in Colorado, took issue with, I think, this particular part of this now law, right? That may be a bit too far-reaching, essentially. What were some of the concerns there?
Yeah, well, for one, and like I know with OIDA, kind of taking issue with some of the figures that were provided as far as trucks being at fault for incidents that the state really hasn't provided. They haven't shown that the increase in accidents are the fault of trucks. I mean,
Right.
Obviously you're going to have both cars and trucks at fault for incidents, but are you just attributing any and all incident in a particular stretch of roadway is if it's involves a truck, then it is the fault of the truck. Now, of course, we know that's not the case, and we are reminded of that often whenever we see videos posted online of vehicles getting into the path of a truck. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that the question is are they accounting for that with some of these figures? So that's one of the points that was made, with specifically with the Colorado Motor Carriers Association. Part of this legislation is requiring the state DOT to do to study for the feasibility of increasing the number of chain-up stations there in this area that the focus is on. One of their the Colorado Motor Carriers Association, one of the points that they have made is that this is a shared responsibility between the state and motor carriers for safety in the corridor, and all too often, because there is a shortage of truck parking there in this area, all too often you've got truck drivers who are essentially forced to continue to drive because there's nowhere to stop and park safely. So they're forced into it. So if you're going to address concern about one, you need to make sure that you're providing some benefit, some offering of where a truck driver can safely pull off and do what you want them to do.
Yeah, and we should also mention too, this law expands left lane restrictions for trucks along several highways throughout the state. I think on I-70 actually, but on different stretches of I-70 throughout the state, and also increasing speed limit enforcement through Glenwood Canyon. So again, a pretty wide-ranging law there in Colorado that's going to affect quite a few people. And we'll keep an eye on that and see how that does affect people over the coming months and years. Let's shift to Portland, Oregon here real quick, Keith, because we've got voters there deciding to keep a local gas tax in place, and this, by extension, will affect truck drivers as well.
Yeah, it is an election year. I think this is the first time that obviously we do a lot of focus throughout the course of the year, and as we get closer to November on areas, states, cities, counties that have transportation-related questions on their ballot. That was the case here in Portland, Oregon here within the past week or so. They have a local gas tax. They also have a local heavy vehicle use tax. All localities across the state of Oregon can implement these. Portland, as you would assume, they're the largest city there in the state. They have both the local gas tax and they have a heavy vehicle use tax. I know specifically the local gas tax is the highest rate there in the state. Both the local gas tax and the heavy vehicle use tax, they both came around back in 2016, and every 4 years they have to be renewed. But there is a distinguishment between the local gas tax has to be approved by voters, whereas in comparison, the heavy vehicle use tax must be approved by the city council. The city council already this year, they renewed the heavy vehicle use tax, but voters here recently got their say and overwhelmingly voted to extend that local gas tax.
Yeah, it's still interesting, despite, prices being up from what they were a few years ago. Every time it seems like, at least, and maybe I could be wrong on this, but it seems like every time this issue comes up across the nation, that residents and voters vote in favor of continuing this. And I suppose it's because the money's going directly to road maintenance and other projects. But I don't know. Am I wrong there?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
I mean, recognition that they need stuff done at the local level. This is, it is for the city, so it does make it a little easier for them to approve it. Obviously, you have to be able to see that improvements have been made over the recent years. So, yeah, they're definitely a very local aspect to it that has been proven beneficial there in Portland.
Well, also breaking news: it's an election year. Who knew?
Yes.
Wait, yes, we're gonna
Stay
be
tuned.
Exactly. We're gonna hear a lot about that over the coming months. Keith, always a pleasure. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's our show for today. We thank you for tuning in wherever you may be. We'll talk at you again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
chrome,
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit ooida.com.